I've always loved driving at night. There's something peaceful about an empty highway, the sound of tires humming against the road, the faint rhythm of rain on the windshield, and the way the world feels asleep except for you. It was late October. I had just finished a business trip in Wichita, Kansas, and was heading back home to Topeka. The GPS said it would take around 3 hours if I stayed on Route 94. It was already past 11 p.m., but I wasn't tired, not yet. The rain had started falling softly, and I remember turning the wipers on low speed. There was no one else on the road. Just me, my car, and miles of dark fields stretching into the distance. The sky was that kind of gray that hides the stars. I remember thinking how quiet everything felt. Even the radio static seemed too loud, so I turned it off and drove in silence. About 30 minutes into the drive, I saw something that made me slow down. There was a woman walking on the side of the road. Alone. No umbrella. Just walking. She looked young, maybe in her late 20s. Her hair was soaked, hanging down her back, and she wore a light blue jacket that was way too thin for that kind of cold. At first, I thought maybe her car had broken down somewhere nearby, but when I looked around, there was nothing. No lights, no vehicles, no houses. Hey, are you all right?
My car stopped working. Her voice was calm, too calm. I offered her a ride, of course. I couldn't just leave someone walking alone at midnight in the rain. She hesitated for a second before getting in. The inside of the car instantly filled with the smell of rain and something faintly metallic, like rust or old pennies.
For the first few minutes, we didn't talk much. She sat with her hands folded in her lap, staring out the window. The wipers moved back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, I asked her where she was headed. Just a few miles ahead, she said quietly. There's a house off the main road. Something about the way she said it made me uneasy. I glanced at her. She wasn't looking at me. Her eyes were fixed on the dark field outside, as if she was watching something move out there. You from around here? I asked. No, she replied after a long pause. I used to be. That answer didn't make sense, but I didn't push it. I just kept driving.
You can stop here.
Here? Are you sure? Yes. It's right there. She pointed toward the field. But when I looked, I saw nothing, just the dark outline of trees far in the distance. I started to ask her if she needed a flashlight or help finding the path, but when I turned toward her seat, she was gone. The door was closed. The seatbelt was still buckled. There was water on the seat where she'd been sitting, dripping slowly onto the floor mat. I froze. I hadn't heard the door open. The locks hadn't moved. She just wasn't there anymore. Wasn't there. I pulled over completely, shaking, and got out with my phone's flashlight. The rain was still falling, but lighter now. I called out, "Hello?" My voice echoed across the empty road. No answer. I walked a few steps toward the field she'd pointed at. The ground was muddy, and I could barely see anything. Then my light caught something. An old wooden post half buried in the grass. I walked closer. It wasn't a post. It was a roadside memorial. A small white cross, worn by weather. There were faded plastic flowers at its base and a name scratched into the wood. Emily Rhodes, 1998-2021. My heart sank. I knew that name. I had seen it before, in a local news article a year earlier. A woman named Emily Rhodes had died in a car accident on Route 94 during a heavy storm. Her car had veered off the road and was found the next morning, flipped in a ditch. She had been walking for help when she was struck by another driver who never stopped. I felt the air leave my lungs. I turned back toward my car and froze. There were footprints. Wet, muddy footprints, leading from where I was standing all the way to the passenger door of my car, and then stopping right where she had sat, but none leading away. But I didn't sleep that night. I drove straight home, too afraid to even look in the rearview mirror. The smell of rain and rust stayed in the car for days. I tried cleaning the seat, scrubbing every inch of it, but that faint metallic scent never went away. About a week later, I drove past the same area again, in daylight this time. I had to see it, just to be sure I hadn't imagined everything. The cross was still there and the field looked quiet. Peaceful even. But something new caught my eye. Someone had placed fresh flowers at the base of the cross. And hanging from it, twisting slightly in the breeze, was a small blue jacket. The same one she'd been wearing. "3 years ago, my cousin and I were driving back from a concert in Texas. We were laughing, half asleep, when the gas light came on. It was almost 2 a.m. The road was dead quiet, cutting through long stretches of empty farmland and scattered woods. There were no houses, no other cars, just the sound of the wind slipping through the half-open windows and the low hum of the engine struggling to keep us going. We hadn't seen a gas station for miles, and my cousin Jake kept glancing nervously at the dashboard. "Man, we're not gonna make it," he said, half joking but with a tone that didn't sound like a joke at all. A few minutes later, we spotted a small sign on the right. "Rest stop, 2 miles." It wasn't a gas station, but at that point, even a bathroom and a vending machine sounded like heaven. So we pulled in. The place looked abandoned. The parking lot lights flickered, the concrete was cracked, and the single vending machine by the restroom door was blinking red like it was out of order. There were only 2 cars parked there, an old white van and a beat-up sedan. Neither had their lights on, and I couldn't see anyone inside them. Jake parked near the restroom entrance, left the engine running and said, "I'm gonna check if they got a map or something. Maybe we can find the nearest gas station." I stayed in the car, scrolling through my phone, trying to get a signal. Nothing. No bars. Just SOS in the corner of the screen. Then I heard something. A noise like gravel crunching slowly under someone's feet. I looked up and saw movement in the reflection of the side mirror. Someone was walking behind the car. I froze. The figure was moving slowly, too slowly, their shadow stretching long across the asphalt. I turned my head to look, but there was nothing. Just the empty rest area and those 2 parked cars.
Jake came back a minute later. "There's a map, but it's ancient," he said. "Looks like the nearest gas station is about 10 miles back."
10 miles? I said. "We'll never make it."
He shrugged. "We can try, or sleep here till morning."
The thought of sleeping there made my stomach twist. The whole place gave off that feeling like something was watching. Still, we were both exhausted. We reclined the seats, turned off the engine, and tried to rest. I don't know how long I slept, but I woke up to a faint tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap. At first I thought it was rain. But when I opened my eyes, I realized the windshield was dry. The tapping came again, closer this time. Jake was still asleep beside me. I whispered, "Jake." He didn't move. Then I saw it. Someone was standing near the front of the car. They were facing us. The parking lot light behind them made it impossible to see their face, but their shape was unmistakable. Tall, thin, head tilted slightly to one side. Their hand rested on the hood. That was the sound I'd heard. Tap, tap. I blinked, and they were gone, just like that. I shook Jake awake. "There was someone outside," I whispered.
He squinted through the window. "Man, there's nobody there. You're just tired." But I knew what I saw.
We decided to leave right then. Jake started the car, but the engine wouldn't turn over. Just a clicking sound. He tried again, nothing. That's when the lights went out. The entire rest stop went black.
No parking lot lights, no vending machine glow, nothing, just darkness. Jake muttered, "What the hell?" and grabbed his phone for a flashlight.
That's when we saw something on the rearview mirror. A red light, blinking slowly. It was coming from behind us. From the restroom building. Jake turned on the flashlight and pointed it out the back window. There, mounted just above the restroom door, was a camera. But the lens was cracked and the red light kept flickering on and off. The weird part? It was pointed straight at us.
Jake frowned. Why would a restroom camera face the parking lot? Before I could answer, the red light turned solid. The camera moved slightly, like it had just adjusted.
Then we heard a click. The van's sliding door opened. I felt my entire body lock up. Someone was inside that van. A man stepped out wearing a hooded jacket and holding something long, maybe a crowbar. He didn't rush. He just stood there watching us. The man took one slow step toward the car, then another. Jake tried the ignition again. This time the engine finally roared to life. We peeled out of there so fast that the tires screamed. In the rearview mirror, I saw the man drop what he was holding and start running after us. Behind him, the camera light turned off completely.
Are you okay?
We just came from that rest stop on Highway 287. There's some guy creeping around there.
That place doesn't exist anymore.
What do you mean?
That rest stop burned down years ago. 2 people were found there, in a car. They never figured out who did it.
Jake and I drove back during the day, trying to convince ourselves maybe we just took a wrong turn. But the only thing we found was an old concrete lot, half covered in weeds. No restrooms, no vending machines, no camera. Just black scorch marks on the ground, and a single melted red light sitting in the dirt. We never spoke about that night again. But sometimes when I'm driving late and the gas light comes on, I still see that red blink in the corner of the mirror. And I swear, I can hear the sound of someone tapping on the hood. It was supposed to be the easiest part of our trip. 4 friends, me, Ryan, Claire, and Nate, driving across the Southwest just to see where the road would take us. No plans, no schedules, just gas, music, and bad diner food. By the 3rd night, we'd been on the road for nearly 10 hours straight. The sun had long disappeared behind the desert ridges, and the world outside had turned to nothing but sand and darkness. The GPS signal kept cutting in and out, and the gaslight had been glowing for the last 15 miles.
Can we please stop somewhere soon? My legs are numb.
Nate was driving, eyes half open, and Ryan, in the passenger seat, was flipping through static-filled radio stations. Then, like a gift, a flickering neon sign appeared up ahead. Mile 52 Motel, vacancy. We almost cheered. The building was small, squat, and faded. One of those roadside motels that probably hadn't seen a remodel since the 80s. Half the letters on the neon sign were burnt out, and the parking lot was empty except for an old pickup truck and a dusty ice machine that made a low mechanical hum. We parked, stretched, and stepped into the dry, silent air. Even the crickets sounded far away. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly like old cigarettes and cleaning supplies. Behind the counter sat an elderly woman with stringy gray hair, wearing a faded blue uniform. She didn't look up right away.
2 rooms?
Yeah. 2 rooms for 4 people, please.
Sign in, and don't mind the flickering lights. They act up sometimes.
Her voice had that flat, rehearsed tone, like she'd said the same line every night for decades. When I picked up the pen, I noticed something odd. The last entry in the guest book was dated 2012. I chuckled awkwardly. Guess you don't get a lot of visitors? The woman didn't answer. She just handed us 2 old brass keys, the kind with room numbers engraved instead of printed.
Room 3 and room 4. Stay quiet after midnight. The other guests don't like noise.
I looked around. The place was empty. Room 3 was small but clean. 2 twin beds, a dresser, and an old CRT television with a thick layer of dust on the screen. The wallpaper peeled slightly near the corners, and there was a faint smell, something between damp wood and old perfume.
This place gives me murder documentary vibes.
We laughed it off, trying to make light of it. Nate turned on the TV, static, no channels, just that endless gray fuzz and soft hiss.
Cool. Guess we're roughing it tonight.
Ryan and I went next door to room 4. It looked identical, except for one thing. The mirror above the dresser had a long crack running straight through the middle, and written faintly across the glass, almost invisible unless the light hit it right, were the words, "Do not stay here." I felt my stomach tighten. Ryan, look.
Probably a prank, or someone being edgy.
Around midnight, I woke up to a faint sound, like footsteps on gravel outside the window. Slow, deliberate steps. Crunch, pause, crunch. I held my breath, listening. Ryan was snoring softly in the next bed. I sat up, the air heavy and still. The curtain moved slightly, as if someone had brushed against it from outside. Ryan. He stirred, mumbled something, and went back to sleep. The footsteps stopped. Then, somewhere far down the hallway, a door creaked open. I waited, then heard another door, then another, each one slowly opening, one after the other, like a chain reaction. I stood, crept to the door, and pressed my ear against it. I could hear faint whispers, too soft to understand, but they were there. I reached for the doorknob. It was cold. Before I could turn it, there was a knock. Not on my door. On the wall, right behind the bed. 3 slow knocks.
Dude, what the hell?
Someone's in the next room. We ran outside, barefoot on the concrete walkway, to room 3, Claire and Nate's room. The door was slightly open. Inside, both beds were empty. The light was flickering. We called their names, searched every corner. Their bags were still there. Phones too. But no sign of them. Ryan ran to the lobby. I followed, heart pounding. The old woman was gone. The front desk light was still on, and the guest book was open. Ryan stared at it, his face draining of color. There, on the newest page, under our names, someone had written in neat, black ink, "Checked out."
That wasn't there before.
We rushed back outside. The air felt colder, heavier. The neon sign now read only Mile 52 Mo, the rest of the letters dead. And then we saw them. Claire and Nate standing at the edge of the parking lot side by side. Not moving, just staring toward the desert beyond. We shouted their names, no response. We walked closer, but the moment we stepped into the open air, the wind picked up, full of dust. When it cleared, they were gone, just vanished. We drove away that night, engine screaming down the empty highway. Neither of us spoke until the next morning, when we finally found a diner near a small town. We stumbled in, pale and shaken. The waitress looked at us like she'd seen a ghost.
We stayed at that motel up the road, the one at Mile 52. Our friends, they...
What motel? Mile 52 Motel. About 20 miles back. Honey, that place burned down in 2013. Nobody stayed there in years.
We went back later that week with police. There was nothing there but rubble and weeds. The sign was gone. The parking lot was cracked and empty. But I swear, when the wind blew, you could still see a faint shimmer of light, like an old neon glow struggling to come back to life. And on the ground, half buried in sand, I found a single brass key. Room 3. Even now, I can't drive through that stretch of highway without feeling the weight of silence pressing against the glass. Every time I see an old neon sign flicker in the distance, part of me wonders if the Mile 52 Motel is still waiting for someone else to check in. If you've ever stayed somewhere that didn't feel quite right, somewhere too quiet, too empty, maybe you already know how that silence listens back. Thanks for listening. If this story made you think twice about your next road trip, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share your own true story in the comments below. You never know. Your story might be the next one I tell.